Ladies and gentlemen, we are now live, and today I am joined by a very interesting young man by the name of Mark Kohl. Welcome to a conversation with, and I am your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr. And make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so we can continue to bring you amazing guests like the one that I have with me today. But the gentleman that I'm going to sit down and talk with for a little bit has a very interesting story. Been in the film business for an extremely long time, very good at what he does. And things took a turn as they sometimes do. And he hit rock bottom, but he was able to turn that around through the help of plant-based medicine. And the gentleman that I am speaking with or of is called name's Mark Kohl, and he is the founder and creator of Frequency Cap. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, Mark, because your journey and your story is very interesting. So welcome to a conversation with, and how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I usually like to start off by asking my guests, and as I said, you were in the film business for quite some time. How did you get started in the entertainment industry?
Oh, that was a really long time ago. I grew up in Chicago, and my family moved around a little bit, and I ended up in Jacksonville, Florida, on my
Mhm.
16th birthday. But I was a guitar player, so I fell into the southern rock world as a teenager, and into my early 20s in the rock and roll uh, business of being a lead guitarist of a band, and bands were very popular back then. But one of the guys that worked or was like one of our, I guess, photographer, roadie type person, worked at a film company, and I realized early on that musicians wasn't, or being a musician would not be real sustainable livelihood. I couldn't even get the band members to show up sober and on time. I was like, this isn't going to work. So, but I'd always been interested in photography. And this guy worked at a film company, and I said, hey, let me know if they're ever looking for somebody. And this is in the 80s, and, there was only film back then. That really wasn't digital or anything. So anyway, one day they were looking for someone. He said, hey, they're looking for a guy in what they call the video department. And video had just come out, home video. So he goes, "Are you interested?" So I went in, and the guy gave me the job, and I started selling VHS and Betamax machines. But then behind the veil, they had broadcast equipment. It's broadcast video equipment. So it turned out, and they had a little studio that they were starting to shoot content for their banks and different corporations that wanted training films. And I was much more interested in that than selling equipment. So, but nobody was really running that department. So I kind of developed the department. I was like 21 or 22 years old, and so they just let me kind of put this thing together, and I started shooting these corporate videos, and I taught myself a lot of production on my own. Back then, it was just basically trying to keep the equipment working was a big part of it. But I made some contacts. I had a lot of energy. I'm the same way now. I'm very focused when I find something I like. I never get out of the saddle, kind of thing. Um, so 35 years later, I was still doing it, and I'm still doing it. Actually, I'm still shooting things every now and then. I'll do a piece of content that's conscious. Usually, I try not to dabble in the commercial stuff too much. It doesn't really align with me much. I like to create, since we're creating some sort of story or illusion, I like to make them positive. But anyway, that whole journey of production took me through. Started in Florida, and then I started expanding in the southeast, and then there was a show in 1993 that was very famous for a long time called America's Most Wanted. They would come to town a lot because of the crime in Florida. So I owned. They used to shoot on 16 millimeter film, and I owned the only 16 millimeter camera in Jacksonville, Florida at the time, and I had started a rental company of equipment, lights, and generators at the age of 25 or 6, I can't remember. And so I had the only equipment in town, and they would come and rent my gear all the time. So eventually, one day, I said, "Well, why don't you just give me a shot, you know?" And they did, and they liked me. So I became one of their main camera cinematographers for the show. And what they were doing back then was quite smart. Is these recreations of the crimes, which is what we're doing. We're basically mini movies. So this was the early 90s when film festivals were just starting. So, you know, the Tarantinos and the Rodriguez's and all these guys were being mined from these, you know, Sundance film festivals and stuff. So America's Most Wanted would just tap into the film festivals and you know, hire young up and coming directors that were winning these film festivals. So I got connected with these guys. We, you know, developed friendships and also really synchronous working, you know, together, unison kind of thing, and became their, you know, main guy. And then they went on to do bigger things, and they took me with them, and I ended up, you know, doing a lot in Los Angeles and all over the world, and started shooting movies for these people. And now they're running. They developed, you know, very large shows, and you know, so that's how I got looped into the bigger projects, was actually through that TV show. And then, you know, you just meet one thing led to another and all of that. So that was my film career. That is continuing, but yes.
Wow. So a lot of the really prominent and famous people that you see today cut their teeth on America's Most Wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
That's
I think so. I
interesting.
mean, it was, well, it was, you know, it was run and gun. We had 3 days to shoot this, you know, 10 to 15-minute movie. We shot on film. We used real actors. We were telling stories, lots of stunts, lots of explosions, lots of bank robberies, lots of, you know, high end kind of stuff. And we would compete against each other. So we were pushing you know, the limits. They didn't really mess with us as long as we delivered something really interesting and compelling. And so that was always the challenge. So, you know, I met Christopher Coppola in there, ended up shooting 3 films for him. Jamie Bruce, who went on to start the show Apprentice, Celebrity Apprentice, and many others. Tom Shelley, I worked with him. He ended up starting Survivor. Mark Ziak, you know, Amazing Race, you know, on and on. So I
Wow.
met some and started working with some big names, and I continued to work with them. But a lot of us cut our teeth. Jonathan Winfrey, who, you know, ran Roger Corman Studios, so I shot a Roger Corman movie. So these are, you know, really insanely well good training grounds for independent filmmaker, because you had almost no time and you had to make things look good. And again, we were shooting film, so it was very cinematic. And yeah, you know, it worked really well. I think I ended up doing over 150, 170 episodes. So over the course of 28 years. So yeah,
And you never went to formal film school. Everything
no,
that you learned,
mm,
you learned on the
yeah,
fly, basically.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, film is one. I mean, that's just the kind of person I am. I've learned everything, most any real skill by myself. Like I have a high school C- education. Like I barely got out of school. Like, you know, I tend to. I don't know. I'm not conventional at all in any sense of the word. You know, I think I'm very intelligent, but I'm not very intellectual. There's a difference. You know, one is memory, one is solving problems. I'm a very good problem solver. That's really what filmmaking is who's the fastest problem solver, who can think out the problems before they happen. That's what a real skilled cinematographer does. I mean, yes, there's the look and the thing and the feel, but the sun's always moving and rain's coming, and you got 2 lights and 3 guys and no power, and so you have to completely figure it out immediately, instantaneously, or prevent problems, right? So, you know, if you're a documentary cameraman, or which I did a lot of documentaries, you have to walk into a location you've never seen
Mhm.
before, right? You have to meet whoever you're interviewing them, size them up energetically. It's a very spiritual practice. I realized you have to size who they are, their character, who they are, in the environment you have, with the equipment you have, and you have about 20 minutes to position that person in a visual medium that millions of people are going to see that captures his character with whatever you're given,
Mhm.
right? And you got two people helping you, right? So that's an instinctual process, right? You can't, there's no book that you can write that can teach you that. So when I shot, it was always a lot of it was my instinct, right? I don't know why I put a camera where I put it. People are like, "What camera do you use?" And I go, "It doesn't matter. I'm going to
Mhm.
put it in the same spot. If I'm shooting IMAX or iPhone, it's going right where it's going to go, right?" And that's the way I view the world. I can see it like that way. So operators, camera operators, any filmmaker, um, you know, just quite frankly, I even taught workshops. I would teach workshops, and most of the time I was trying to unwind these straight lines that people are taught, right? Right? There is no real, I mean, there's rules, but you understand the rules, so then you understand how you can bend or break them, right? And then you're innovative, right? But that's the only reason I use rules. I don't use them to live by. And it's
Mhm.
a reflection of how I run everything, right? I lead, I don't lead by logic. It doesn't, it's hard to explain, but, and we'll get into it when I, kind of fell from grace, if you will, but because a lot of that was logical.
Mhm.
Well, to me, nature is not logical. There is no straight line in nature, right? It's instinctual, right? So I feel things now and I can sense, and of course I'll put some logic in there, but I mix it all up together. And then that's how I hire people, or I find my next path is what makes sense, maybe logically, but on
Mhm.
top of that, what feels right, right?
Mhm.
So that is a big important thing. Like, what is my radar, my instinct telling me of how to photograph something or how to solve a problem, or who should I be with, who should I not be with, who should I do business with, where should, whatever the question I have at hand. Now that I'm a clean vessel, I lead by instinct more than I do intellect,
Mhm.
right? Because when
So let
you
me ask you.
learn something, when you learn something in a book,
Uh-huh.
that book has been written by somebody else. It's not their information. And they probably wrote it off another book and off another book and off another book, right? So all conversation, all words, like what we're having right now,
Right.
is the basis of all conversation words that have ever been written throughout humanity to this pinnacle right now, right? So I encourage that we learn these things. We stand on the shoulders of the men before us, but there's also, especially in this new age of the Aquarian age, there's an experiential knowing versus a learning, if that makes any sense. Like, do you want to get on a plane with someone that learned how to fly a plane on a video screen simulator? Or do you want to get on the plane with the guy that's been at the controls for 40 years, it's been shot down and pulled out of it 30 times? Experience, right? And that is only through, you know, uh, living on this planet for a while. Wisdom is the combination of knowledge mixed with life experience. You
Yeah.
can't teach an AI computer wisdom, right? You can't. You'd be able to tell it all the data and all that stuff, but it will never be wise. It will never have instinct.
Yeah.
So,
It can only spit out what we put into it. And
well,
you
it can
said
multiply
right.
it. You're not going to give it emotion.
Right.
You're not
But
going to
but you
teach it compassion.
yeah. But you said something a little earlier regarding your gut when you're talking about possibly hiring someone. Have you ever run into a situation when you've been on a set or about to shoot and you're looking for that crew, and there may have been someone that you came into contact with that didn't have that resume, but you got that feeling that this is the person that I need to be working with. Have you ever run into that situation and someone looked at you and they were like, "Well, Mark, well, when we're looking at the resume, they don't have, for lack of a better word, the pedigree that someone else would, but you're going off of what you just explained, and you're saying to them, no, this is the person that fits." Have you ever run into that situation?
Um, all the time.
Mhm.
I was one of my skill sets is picking a good team. Listen, people pick me over other people because they could feel my work ethic. They could feel my instinct, right? I didn't have the resume. I still don't have resumes, but I mean, I'm good, but my work is dated now. I haven't really shot much, but you put a camera in my hand, I'm going to make some magic happen, right? So those people that I gave a chance to, like there's 4 or 5 of them. In fact, they flew me back to Jacksonville and gave me the most influential film award one year because I saw that in people. I could see a crowd of people and I go, that guy, that girl, whatever, him, everybody else get out of here. But it doesn't matter because I knew they would learn. I knew they wouldn't give up. I knew they would stay in the saddle, whatever it is. Right. So for sure. And I let more people go that had all the technical expertise. The tech, when you get wound up in technical, you're missing it. People are always like, "Oh, this camera's got the 4K and the 8K and the 12K." I go, "Okay, I don't care. I got a guy who will download that stuff. What are we shooting? What story are we telling? Is there any emotion in it? What does this shot say to you? Pay attention, right? We're getting wrapped up with cables and hard drives. I mean, yes, it's important to know some of that, but when people start asking me, clients, like, what are you going to shoot on? I go, okay, I got it. Don't worry about it. It's like, what are we doing, right? All the cameras look good now, quite honestly. This looks great. Looks amazing. This iPhone camera is better than the best, digital camera we had probably 2 years ago, right? So, I mean, what are you doing with it is what's important, right? So I tend to I use the cameras or the filming to create obviously a story, but to create an emotion, right? And you just move the camera a couple inches here or there, and you can create a totally different feeling, right?
Yeah, and that is so true because I deal with a lot of new filmmakers, and as you said, so many of them get caught up in, well, I'm going to use the Doppler 5000,
Who
and it's
cares?
like, okay, but the thing is, what type of story are you telling?
Yeah,
Is it
you're getting high resolution garbage.
right? Now let's hey, the cinematography is beautiful, but it doesn't
Maybe,
move me. It
yeah,
doesn't. It's nothing
right,
that's it doesn't resonate with me.
yeah,
So if it doesn't resonate with me, I don't care how good it looks. But if I'm leaving with an empty feeling,
yeah,
did you do your job?
yeah. Well, I mean that starts on the page too. If it sucks on the page,
Yes.
it's going to suck on the screen. I mean, you can, I don't know what we can say and what we can't say, but we call it
Oh, where
polishing a
this is an adult
turd.
show, you can say whatever.
Okay, okay, we call it polishing a turd. But um, there's also things. Oh, wow, that looks good, and I go, yeah, but if you don't understand, because now cameras see in the dark, and you don't need lighting. You do need lighting, right? You need it, but it's like I light with subtractively. It's not the lights I turn on; it's the ones I turn off, right? Because the camera sees everything. So people don't light anything. And it's shit. You're getting bounces off of the walls, the floor, a car. You're not. So I'm a big grip guy. I remove a lot of that stuff so I can shape it. And then, I mean, I see all these movies. Oh, they look great. And you can't see the actor's eyes. I'm like, if you can't see an actor's eyes, you cannot see into his soul or her soul, and you cannot feel the character. I don't care what, there's moments when you just need that light, highlight, whatever. But if you can't see them and they're always in the shadow, you're kind of like, you're not really getting their emotion because it's called motion pictures, right? So much. I mean, you look at movies like, Castaway or, No Country for Old Men. There's not much language in it, right? It's visually, Deakins or Roger Deakins or whatever. It's visual storytelling. What are they thinking? Don't tell too much, imply. let the viewer figure out what's going on, right? Steve McQueen, he's like, don't give me any lines, he's like, just let me show my blue eyes or whatever. He look this way, and then, but that that becomes interactive to the viewer, right? You don't want to have a radio show with pictures, you want to like the music, the motion, whatever, intelligence.
Yeah.
So much of a story can be told in a frame, in a reaction of an actor, in no reaction of an actor, whatever, if it's done properly, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Editorial, an editor is almost more important than a director. It's like, when do you see these things? The real movie's told in the editing room.
Yeah.
You know.
And one of the movies that you mentioned, Castaway with Tom Hanks, one of the best scenes is when Wilson is floating away.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. I never thought that I could get so emotional over a volleyball
Right.
floating away.
Right.
And but the way it's just
Well, it's
unbelievable.
also the Zemeckis brother. I mean, those guys know that they're the masters at their craft, right? 45 minutes with no dialogue. Yeah.
Unbelievable. But let's talk about, with your career, you're moving along, you're doing phenomenally. When did things start to unravel as far as the alcohol use? Because I listened to an interview you did, and you were talking about when you were playing with the band, you would have a few beers on stage to kind of mellow you out and to unwind. So when did you get to a point when you said, "Okay, Mark, we have a problem"?
Yeah. Now, well, it wasn't like a moment,
Mhm,
because we like to lie to ourselves, right? Now,
mhm,
remember also, this is Florida. This is the late 80s, going into the 90s, going into the early 2000s. Alcohol was huge. And I grew up in Chicago, German, Lutheran, and we had a refrigerator in the basement full of beer, and next to the refrigerator were cases of beer waiting to go into the refrigerator, and there was a martini bar, and I think my dad had a bar at his office at work, like it was like, Mad Men kind of thing, right? So I grew up in Coca-Cola was not allowed. We called it pop in the house, but
mhm.
alcohol was everywhere. So my cousins, everybody drank all day on the weekends and worked on the house. But I never really saw people drunk. They just drank all the time, right? I didn't know. I was a kid, right? So I didn't really like alcohol much, um, but I realized I had, I guess, like I couldn't. I was very fearful, very shy. I was short kid in school. Maybe I was picked on a little bit. It's quiet. Not. I didn't grade well. I had gotten my teeth knocked out, so I wasn't really. I was a shy kid. I was a shy little boy, right? Fearful, I guess. And when I started drinking a little bit, that would go away. So I used it very strategically, I guess, throughout the years, like, unknowingly. Like, we do so many things subconsciously, we don't even know what we're doing, right? But all I knew is when I had a beer or two, my mind would calm down, and I could talk to that girl. I could make that phone call. I could write that paper. I could create, right? I could play my guitar without thinking. I could relax, right? But then, it got to be more. But I literally couldn't, not like I couldn't play my guitar in front of my grandma or anything. I was too nervous, right? I would shake. I was thinking about it. I wasn't playing guitar. I was thinking about playing guitar. And there was a very big difference. It has to get into, you have to get in flow, and mostly, and it's like acting, Anthony Hopkins said it best. Like, when we do our art, it's a form of deep, deep meditation, right? Which is relaxing the mind. So I used it through alcohol to relax the mind. So at first, it was a very beneficial to me until, like they say in the AA program, they say at first it's fun, and then it's fun with problems, and then it's just problems, right?
Mhm.
So I was pretty bulletproof. I didn't start drinking really heavily until my late 20s maybe, and then into my 30s, and then I got divorced at 30, and I had two little kids. I had a family. I got married at 22, and then I started my business right after that. And went independent. After that, had two companies going, and then I really started taking off around after I got divorced. I started taking off my career, And I had a good run of about 20 years, and
Mm.
there was just a lot of alcohol because I was working with a lot of advertising agencies, and it was high stress. The film business is probably one of the most stressful businesses around, and our craft service food table, when we'd say wrap, they'd flip it around and it was a bar. So
Mm.
everybody was drinking. I mean, we had refrigerators full of beer on the camera trucks. So it was like, it was in the lifestyle. And by the way, most of those people are dead now.
Mm.
Like, it eventually caught up with them. I should
Wow.
be one of them. But yeah, so it was a lifestyle. We were living in a very stressful life. It was very difficult. The filmmaking can be very addictive because it's it's very hard, and it can be very exciting. There's a lot of pressure. It's like a military operation. When you're in the bunkers with a crew, mostly men, obviously, you're at war, and you become comrades and deep friends, and you're all or have the same mission to get the job done. And then, so we had a very big purpose, and there's a high with that. There's an adrenaline high. And then when you achieve it, you get this reward system, they talk about in the brain that is like no other drug of satisfaction. Um, but then it's over. And it was such a weird thing. I would do these huge jobs, hundreds of guys, be running them through 12 cameras, through the swamp, through the desert. And then all of a sudden, I'm at home sitting on the couch.
Mm.
A general without an army. Lost purpose is what I'm getting at. Right now, what do I do? Right? I've disconnected from the world for 2 months on the show. Working eight. Now it's over. I have no purpose. I'm bored. I've lost people have stopped calling because I've been gone. Right? So glug glug glug. People like, oh, you're in town. Let's get lunch. Have a glass of wine. Let's chill. Let's go to the beach. Whatever. And then all of a sudden, you're drinking during the day, and you wake up with a hangover, and you're shaky, and you have a Bloody Mary, and the goes away, and then you have another one, and then all of a sudden you're drinking all day, and before you know it, you're a shaky mess. And I started, and then I got a DUI in I think 2000. That shook me up, and then I quit for a while, and then I went through AA, and I just couldn't really connect with that. And then I went back at it, and you don't know what you don't know. And I was living alone. I didn't have much purpose, and it was just this loop, and then it just got worse and worse and worse. Um, and then it finally caught up with me, like 14 years later. I got another DUI and stuff, but then at the end, I was just hanging on for dear life. Like I knew for about 10 years solid I had a problem. I started checking myself into rehabs. I couldn't stop. I would go on these drinking binges. Like once I picked up a drink, I didn't know when I would stop.
Mm.
And you're talking to a really strong person here, and I could not understand what was happening. It was literally like somebody had taken over the wheel of my entire life. I could not control it, and it just shattered everything. And I started showing up to jobs shaky, and I couldn't think, and it was foggy, and you have to be really sharp when you're shooting, directing, and I wasn't. And I was hurting with the hangover and the fogginess, and I couldn't wait to start to have a drink so I could calm down. And like when you're going through withdrawals, man, it's like horrible. So anyway, it just got worse and worse and worse. And then I stopped. I'd gone through hundreds and hundreds of AA meetings. I had gone through 4 rehabs. I'd been in the hospital 8 times for detoxing. Like I tried everything, and I mean everything, to stop because I knew I had a problem, and my kids weren't talking to me. I had no relationship. And 10 years ago in June 2014, I was dying.
Mm.
The earlier late May. I was laying in my bed. I had shown up to a job sober, and then I drank just the night before it, and I couldn't. It was just like the movie Airplane. I drank, or Flight. I drank the entire minibar in my room, just like that scene, man. Every time I see that scene with Denzel looking at that minibar, it flips me out because that's
Mm.
exactly what happened.
Wow.
And I couldn't walk. I couldn't move. So they fired me. I don't know. It took me several days to get home. I don't remember how I got home. Anyway, I ended up in a one-room studio apartment I had in Venice Beach for forever, and I just shut the blinds and drank. I don't know, 2 months, 3 months straight. I would wake up shaky. I would walk down to Davy's Liquor Locker in Venice Beach. It's still there. 7 in the morning. They crack open the door. This old Russian guy give me a bottle of vodka, and I'd be okay. Take one sip of that, and I was drinking it out of a paper bag, and I was like, "How the fuck did I get here?"
Mm. Wow.
So
So,
then, yeah, one day I was laying in bed. I don't know how long. I don't know when the last time I took a shower. I don't know the last time I ate. I don't remember anything. But I left. I started hallucinating. I started hearing things, and I went, "I'm dying." I could feel. I was paralyzed. I couldn't move, and I was like, "This is it. Oh, this is what I heard about, and this is happening." And I was okay with it. I was like,
mm,
I don't want to go through rehab again. This just doesn't work. I don't want to go back to any of it. I can't. It's too much work. I've tried my ass off. It just does not work. This is my exit. And I was really okay with it. I was at peace with it. And there was this little voice that said, just one more time, man. Just one more time. So deep in the fog, I grabbed my phone. I still don't know when it was. I called somebody. It was a friend. She came by. I said, "Hey, will you, like, I gotta, like, I don't know what to do. Can you find me another rehab?" And she did. And she took me. It was in Malibu, and they wouldn't take me. I was in such bad shape. So they
mm,
checked me in the hospital for 4 days or something to detox because I was in such bad shape. And that was my birthday. I spent my birthday 10 years ago in the hospital. Nobody called. Nobody came by. Nobody said happy birthday. I had no friends from this well known guy to this. So I go to rehab, and I was like, I'm never fucking coming back to one of these places ever again. And this time it was different. It was in California, and I got into the AA program here. It was better. There was thousands of AA meetings a day. I realized I was not alone. I realized these people lived all around me. I realized I was sitting next to, movie stars and CEOs and upstart and, serious people. So I started going to 2 meetings a day to keep my head together because I was, this is why you go back because you're freaking out. Your neural pathways are not built that you're still detoxing. I mean, just this whole, you're a mess when you come out from drinking like that. Like you feel everything and your
mm,
chemistry and your brain's off, your chemistry and your body's off. You have no money, no friends. Like it's a whole thing. And it wasn't a day by day thing. It was an hour by hour thing, like, or minute by minute, like suicidal and not suicidal, like for years. Right.
right.
So I just kept doubling down on that. And then I met a guy, the sponsor in the program, who was also in the movie business. He was an assistant director. He was really tough on me, but I needed that. Needed that. He's like, I do not care if you die or live. All I know is if you don't do this, you will die.
Mm,
And I went, you're right, because I almost did. So I just did what he told me. And, the more awkward it was, the better you learn. This is the whole thing. We think things so. And then he turned me on to Kundalini yoga. And I'd never heard of it. I thought it was the weirdest thing ever. But he started taking me to Kundalini, which is a very ancient technology of the mind, body, spirit. And it was the most awkward, weird thing I'd ever seen done. Everybody's dressed in white. They're chanting. We're holding positions for 10 minutes. We're doing these weird breath things. We're like, I'm a Lutheran from Chicago. I'm like, what the? This looks like fucking like insanity, right? But he's like, just keep coming, just keep coming.
right.
So I did, and it was very, very instructional because they would tell you what's happening in scientifically. This is doing
Mm,
this to the brain matter of the brain. This is doing this to the nervous system. Your mind is full of lies. Here's, blah blah. It was ancient control of the brain and the mind and the body and the spirit. It goes all the way back to Egypt, and it started making sense to me. And then I started doubling down on that, and then I started slowly changing my thinking. My body was changing. My nervous system was getting stronger. I was doing cold showers. And then I discovered ayahuasca. And, that was not 8 or 9 years ago. And I had heard of it. It was really, really underground back then. And I ran it by my sponsor. And I was like, have you heard of this brew from the Amazon and the thing and about addiction? He goes, don't do it. And I went, but I think I don't know. There's something like I want to try it. I want to try anything because I just like I need to, I'm taking chances here because I can't go back to my old.
Right.
Anyway, so I pushed back and I did it, and I didn't know anybody. I was laying on a concrete floor on Lincoln Avenue, Lincoln Boulevard in Venice, Florida, or Venice, California. Noisy. No, didn't know anybody. Didn't know anything. I'm drink this medicine, this thick gooey stuff, and I just like took me like totally to the ethers, and was the most beautiful, joyful experience I'd ever felt in my entire life. And I realized everything was not what I thought. So this joy that I felt was from the removal of my illusionary fears, the removal of all of my traumas, the removal of my conditioning, my programming. It took it all away. There was no ego death. I had a full ego death. And that's where joy is. Right?
Let me ask you a question really
We
quickly.
create our own misery, as they say, right?
Yeah, let me ask you something, because as you're talking about, how do you pronounce it? Ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca, yeah. It works on
Ayahuasca.
DMT, yeah.
And you said something about it being underground at the moment. And again, I was listening to an interview and they were talking about that particular substance, or if that's what you want to call it, is illegal.
Yeah.
But what you just said about when you took it and then the release of everything and basically the clarity that came with that. And I was thinking about the difference between Eastern medicine, Western medicine, and things like that. Do you think that maybe a lot of the medicines and then the practice, the type of yoga that you did, is not widely pushed here because of the fact that doctors always say, well, this is wrong with you, take this pill. That's wrong with you, take this pill. This is wrong with you, take this pill, as opposed to saying, there are some things and some practices that you can do to heal yourself naturally and organically, like you ended up doing. What are your thoughts on that?
I could write 3 books on it. Listen, day 1 of medical school, cured patient is a lost customer, right? They don't want you to be better. You don't buy anything. Like that, I said exactly that basically to the shaman after the most joy ever in my life I felt in 2 hours. I said, how can this be legal? How can this, like, if everybody did this, there would be no war, there would be no divorce, we would live in harmony, blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me like I'm an idiot. And he goes, because happy people don't buy anything. Right? And that stuck with me today. But it's a much bigger conversation than that. Like, we've been on planet Earth a long time. I mean, not in as far as the Earth is 4 billion years, but humans, we've always healed ourselves, right? But there's no money in that. The human brain and the human gut biome create millions, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of medicines constantly based on your thoughts, constantly, right? And this is the ancient practices of the Kundalinis, of the prana healers, of any of these ancient things are your practice of breath work or cold or your thought creates a chemical that can heal you. Okay, let me give you an example how powerful the mind is, right? It's very simple. It can also make you really sick, right? So you can masturbate to a thought and have an orgasm without that action being present, right? That's how powerful thought is, right? If you think about it, there's many other ways, things too. But so if you are you become what you think. So in the prana healing, there's many auras. But the last three are the thought goes to the emotional aura, goes to the ethereal aura, the physical body, right? The body doesn't know anything. It is an objective observer of the mind. So the mind will tell the body what's happening. Is it in danger? Is there food close? Am I safe? Whatever, through the five senses, as we know, are extremely limiting, right? But benzodiazepine, which is Xanax, right? They synthesized from the human body. It's in mother's breast milk. It's a natural sedative to calm you down. You get it when you exercise. You get it when you do certain breath work. Babies fall asleep breastfeeding because they have basically natural Xanax in them, right? So again, this is made by the brain and the body, these chemicals, right? The chemicals, every emotion is a chemical. You have adrenaline, you have cortisol, you have oxytocin, love, you have drama. So but what creates them? Thought, right? So let's go to how the brain makes you sick. So the Buddhists have always said we create our own misery, right? So heart attack is created by what? Stress. And what is stress? It's an emotion. I call it an opinion, right? There's no stress in nature. It is your perception of the behavior or whatever's happening that creates the stress, right? What might be stressful to you might not rattle me at all. It is my interpretation of that event, right? So right now, when you have your perception in this moment in time is attached to your memories, right? So a little kid has no attachment to anything and their perception is clean and clear because they have no data to reference what's happening right in that moment. That's why they live in the moment, because there's nothing there. There's no fears. There's no back hard drive with a bunch of different events to filter this lens of perception, right? So when you look around, when you look at a word, you don't sound it out. You have that word memorized, right? And that memory is attached to your perception of that event. There's an attachment, right? Psychedelics break that attachment, that association with your past memory, and then you just experience the moment or reality as it's happening with no filter of memory. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when we're triggered by someone or something makes us angry or pushes our buttons, what they're doing is pulling up a memory, which I make the analogy that it's a window open on your computer, and that window comes right to the front, right? And when that window opens of trauma or whatever that memory is, or your illusionary memory, because our memories are very, very faulty, the body will go right back into that moment, maybe 50%, release the same chemicals of that moment, and you're back in it, right? Now the brain's, right, the body's flipping out, right? And the event is not there. It's not happening. But who's suffering? We're right back in that trauma, right? So where I'm going with this is scientific now. I've been reading a lot about it, but 80 to 97% of worries and anxieties, yours, mine, the average person, everybody, average, never happen, right? So we live in this 80 to 97% of worries, of anxieties that we are creating, right? Like they said, we create our own misery. They're not going to happen, but the body doesn't know that. So now you have all these windows going, right? That imaginary, I call them windows, these worries. You got all hundreds of these worries going. They're all open. They're all taking up battery power. They're all taking up space in your brain. And as a camera guy, you start to look at life through a straw, right? And the older and older you get, the more afraid you get. If you're unaware of this, the fear, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And now you're looking at life through a straw and you're just doing this, right? Meanwhile, joy is in the wide, in the peripheral, right? This is also science, right? Buddhists, by the way, Buddhism is a technology. It advances, right? So in the peripheral vision of the eyes, you get more dopamine, you get more information, you get more wonder, you get more awe, right? So now the whole idea is that you start to shut down these windows. And this is how microdosing works. So the microdosing of psilocybin works on, first of all DMT, psilocybin, and these other natural plant psychoactive medicines. They work on the ego, right? Especially mushrooms and ayahuasca. So your worries are part of the ego. So when you're running all these windows of worry, you're sending a signal to your body that it's in trouble when it's not. You just can't make, you think you can't make rent, but it thinks it's being chased by a tiger. So it's releasing cortisol, poison, stress, adrenaline, etc. So your blood pressure, your everything. Then, you know, we used to do it for a day or two in nature, right? Now we do it for decades, right? So the body can't live under that kind of tension. It has to be relaxed, right? It has to get, so then we get Crohn's disease, cancer, heart attack, skin. I think we've worked with so many people, including myself. I mean, I'm 63 years old, and, you know, I can still do 50 push-ups, and it's like, it's psychosomatic. It's who we think we are. And the body will react accordingly, right? So if you think you're a piece of shit, your mom told you you're a piece of shit, you're going to validate that.
Yes, you are.
Right. So so when we go into these different realms, you shut these windows down of these worries, and you pull back, and then you realize, damn, everything's okay. I'm good. And the body's relaxed, right? But we've done these patterns so long, for decades, that now the neural pathways of the brain are wired, and that becomes what we call a habit, right? So Buddhism, again, watch your thoughts, thoughts become habits, habits become your destiny. Scientifically, now, you know, you've welded the neural pathways to being worried all the time. So that's why you wake up in panic for no reason. I know, I lived it for decades. I'm like, why am I freaking out all the time? Glug, 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 glug. Right? It was all an illusion. All of it is an illusion.
So the mushrooms, what type of dosage do you take? Let's say, for instance, someone like myself who's never done anything like that before, and I wanted to test it out for myself. What are the procedures in order to do something like that? How would you go about doing that? Or
Well,
would you recommend doing it with someone who has actually done it before?
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I break it down. This is like, we're one of the few companies I know doing what we're doing. I think,
Mhm.
you know, as far as I know, we're the only one. We've been around, but we're doing it very naturally, very holistically. We use the full fruiting body of the mushroom as it is in nature, no extractions, no synthesized, no garbage, pure fertilizer. It's grown in a sound chamber. It's like intentional. Everybody here works is a vibration. And that is really important. So where you're getting the medicine is very, very, very important. Okay. Because it's psychoactive. Like, people want to know where their psychedelic journey medicine is coming from, because it's a reflection of your journey. Okay. So I put it in three main categories. We have the microdose, which is somewhat is visually imperceptible, right? So it's a very tiny amount. Everybody's different, but ours run at 180 milligrams, which we found is kind of the sweet spot. It turns off those worries. It turns off those anxieties. However, it does not affect you visually, cognitively, whatever, except to make you clearer. So if I said to you, Floyd, who would you be without worry, without these 80 to 97% of your worries? If I subtract those from you, who would you be? Right? So unlike an antidepressant, which is diverting your stress or severing it, numbing you, messing with your serotonin receptors, you know, an SSRI, or I just remove your illusionary worry.
Mhm.
So that's the microdose, which I encourage you to use, because you'll immediately get more cognitive. You immediately connect better. Your body will go, what is going on? I feel amazing because I'm not worried, right? And you know, people cut you off in traffic. You don't care, right? So I tell people, it's not what you feel, it's what you don't feel. Okay, microdose. Then on the other end, we have macrodose. Journey. That's like take you to see God, see yourself, whatever. All of these are big conversations. Sorry, I know I'm eating up your
Oh, no. You're fine.
your
You're
thing
fine.
here.
No, you're fine.
I can weave a long.
Please explain it.
Yeah,
I'm curious,
yeah.
and this is phenomenal information.
Okay, so then we go to the macrodose, right? So by the way, these medicines have been around for millions of years. Humans have used them since the beginning of time. All religions, read the book, The Immortality Key, documentary coming out soon, tells us this. Much very deep research, chemical analysis of wines, potions, tinctures, texts. They've been removed from history, have been rediscovered. And every major religion, including Christianity, was based in psychoactive healing plants since the beginning of man, right? The sacrament of communion is going to blow Christianity apart, but the real, I mean, I even questioned as a kid, was mushrooms, and they had Acacia, I think, root in it, which I think is a type of DMT, but it was psychoactive.
Mm-hmm.
There was, and in Greece, ancient Greece. Anyway, these ceremonial practices of large doses are spiritual. The macro doses, the hero's journey, all of the hero's dose, right? So those are supposed to be done like they were in Christianity, the original Christians, with a facilitator, with an intention, in a safe container, and monitored with intention, right? Those are for the real change. You get down to, why are you so stressed out? What's going on, right? So, I've been doing this 10 years or 9 years or so. So there's three main things that happen in these journeys. One is you face truth, right? Truth. You cannot lie to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to others. You can do all these things. But in nature, God, whoever's running this whole thing, you cannot hide from the truth. So you face truth. And that can be, I guess, fearful if you're living with a bunch of bullshit, right? But that's how you clean it up. If you are, face it, deal with it, let it go, change your life. And when you operate with integrity and truth, everything else starts to fall in, right? So it's like the little things you do when nobody's looking, right? Truth, right? And as God says, I think in the book of Conversations with God, it starts with truth. Underneath truth is joy. Underneath joy is love, right? You can't love yourself if you're lying to yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't love yourself if you don't respect yourself, and respect yourself is truth. Respect is truth, right? I can lust somebody, but I can't love you unless I trust you, right? Unless I respect you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that comes up. You release fear, right? So fear is a big one because it is what is holding us back. Like I was afraid of at the end of everything. I drank because I was afraid. I was afraid people wouldn't like me. I was afraid to talk to them. I was afraid I had no self-confidence. Dude, the last 10 years since I've taken all this, the medicine and the chemicals away, I had at 50 years old face all the demons, all the fears. My nervous system was shot. I was so sensitive. I was like a baby. So I've had to rebuild all these things, right? But again, they're an illusion, right? I wasn't in danger. I was fearful. There's a very big difference between danger and fear, right? You don't want to be stupid, but why are you not going for it? Why are you not trying to do something that you really want to do in life? You're too afraid. Okay, then the third one, and this is probably the main one, and these are my words, by the way. You won't find this necessarily on the internet. This is from all the ceremonies I personally have done, all the things I've done with people. This is what I find is one of the main ones is finding meaning in life, finding purpose. Why am I here? Right? Viktor Frankl, man's meaning, right? In Auschwitz, he discovered that if people lost hope or lost meaning, they died within days. Psychosomatic, right? If they had that illusion, even if it was an illusion of hope, but having purpose in life. Why was I given this gift, which is magical? I mean, it's magical, the human body, and mind, and spirit, right? Out of the trillions of things in the universe, we're here right now in this moment. Why was I given this? What is my purpose? And when we find that, I have found personally and through my helping others, once you find the reason you're here, everything else gets out of your way. You don't reach outside for happiness. You don't reach outside for bliss. You jump out of bed in the morning and you know why you're here, and you go out and you get it, right? Everybody here has a purpose. Like Marcus Aurelius, you look at nature. If a bee doesn't do a bee's job, the beehive will fail, and then
Yes.
eventually the forest will fail. So we don't even know why we do what we do. The bee doesn't, right? The bee just does it, right? So if we're not doing it, we don't know the ripple effect of this is how society is collapsing. We have a lot of people here, but they're just existing. It's called the Roman circus. Entertainment and the people with their Netflix, no purpose. They're a boat floating in the ocean without an engine, no sail, no direction, no GPS, no course. They're existing, floating, going nowhere. But they're great for consuming. Go out to eat, spend money, go to a movie, spend more money, watch some football game with people you don't know, right? Like spend money, 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 go home, go to a job that takes you nowhere. You're not going anywhere, right? But you're making a lot of money for the people above you, right? And then, oh, you're sad, you're stressed, here's some alcohol. There you go. That'll calm you down. Oh, you drank too much. Whoa, 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 back up. Hang on, hang on. Oh, now you're an alcoholic. Shame. Oh, wait, wait, wait. I know that all the money all the things you're doing are stressing you
Right.
out. Oh, you don't have enough money? Here's some credit cards. Go fill those up. Oh, buy a house. 30 years, you got a noose around your neck. Credit cards are full. House, your kids are screaming. They want to go to college. You're stressed. Club, perfect. Alcohol, right? Oh, now you're an alcoholic. Alcohol is the most addictive, damaging drug there is. Schedule 1, it would be like, dude, it would never pass any FDA test now, right? It's poison. It's called ethanol. When you pour it in your car, that's ethanol, corn alcohol. It'll run, right? So anyway, now you're an alcoholic. Oh, you're bad. You're bad, 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 right? You can't handle it. You bad. Let's take you out of society. Let's throw you in a rehab. Guess who owns the rehabs? I don't even need to tell you, right? 80 grand a bed a month, bam, you're an alcoholic, bam, you're bad. Come out, relapse, do it again. Dude, I did it. I saw it. I saw the system. I saw the guy running them. He's renting houses, making $1 million a house a month. It's a scam, right? That's why psychedelics are illegal, right? Because you heal you.
Right.
There's no money in that. It's a terrible, terrible business model. But anyway, so I got off track. Sorry. So the hero's dose is that journey of finding yourself, finding purpose, releasing fear, and finding truth, right? So it might take several doses. It might take several sessions. It might, because you got 50, 60, 40 years of mental programming. Your brain is your body's wired the same way. It's wired for the same thing over and over and over and over, right? Right? We don't want it, we don't want to change. We say we do, but it hurts. Everything is hard at first, right? You want to change? Dude, I had to lose everything. Everything. But that day that I lost everything was the best day of my life because it's the day I changed. If I didn't lose everything, I'd still be like the pedestrians, just kind of, oh, okay, and then you die, right? Nobody cares. Nobody cares, right? If you're Christopher Walken, if you knew how the people that you worry about, what they think about you, if you knew how fast they would forget you and leave at your funeral, you would never give a shit about what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
They might come to your funeral. They might see it on Zoom. You're gone. Nobody cares, right? But we live our life trying to please these people instead of here, right? Okay, then in the middle, sorry, getting off track again. In the middle, we have what we call social dosing. Social dosing, okay, so we have the macrodose, which is the spiritual enlightenment, whatever. We have the microdose, which is, an antidepressant, if you want to call it that, or just puts you back in you, because you're really not depressed. You're making yourself depressed,
Right.
And then we have the social dose, which you feel, but you don't journey. It's just nice and light. We have fudges that are 0.5 gram. We have tea. I'm actually drinking it right now. Little tea
Okay.
bag. Where's the camera? Yep. So it's very tasty, and you just kind of sip on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it just calms the mind, keeps the bad guys out a little bit. Keeps you focused. Obviously, I talk a lot, but it's fun, and it's not only is it non-addictive. It's what I don't know who came up with the term. I think maybe Paul Stamets. It's called anti-addictive. So it
Mm.
actually breaks addictive behaviors, right? You put your phone down. I'm having a conversation with you. I'm
Right.
not thinking about anybody else. I'm not thinking. I'm right. I'm very present. I'm connected because my mind is clear. The windows have been shut down of everything else. The static's gone, right? So that's the social dose. Very, very good for everything. Like we have these tea parties that everybody, no alcohol allowed, and we make tea for everyone. It's really light, it's cool, and now everybody's on the same vibration,
Mm.
and the conversations are just like the one we're having right now. They're deep, they're meaningful, they're connective, they're not angry, they're not bitching about their husband, they're not bitching about their wife, they're not anger,
Right.
right? Everybody's connecting on a heartfelt human level, and that's yeah. So that's basically what the 3 main doses are, right? So we have instructional videos. I'm making more actually tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Being a filmmaker, we have a YouTube channel. I don't know. You can throw all that up on your YouTube or however this is being presented. But we're going to be doing more and more, and we're releasing a new website called Frequency Events, where we're going to have more events. We partnered with doctors who do events, psychedelic mental health. We have scientists we work with. We have different modalities of healers throughout the world that we're sponsoring, that we partner with, that we will help out, promote. They use our medicine. We have several locations that we do these in, these safe containers. I facilitate myself. We have many others that do it themselves. We're trying to get the medicine out to Philadelphia, to wherever, all over the country, because it's well needed now in this time, like right now.
Yes.
As you can tell, we're in a revolution of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're trying to help humanity. Like Rumi says, what you're seeking is seeking you. So I know there's people out there looking for us, and we're
Yeah.
trying to get our message. So I appreciate you having me on this podcast too. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so we can do a road trip or bring people here, whatever. But so I don't know if that answered your question of what would you
It,
do, but yeah.
it did. It did. And last question. There's a gentleman that I follow by the name of Ed Milet. And one thing that he always talks about is he says, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And
Mm-hmm.
your entire journey, and even the worst parts, because he talks about the fact that that phrase, you really have to look at it from the standpoint of you could be in the midst of something very bad. And you went through some very traumatic situations, and you dealt with some stuff, for a very long time, if stuff is even the right word. But as I sat and listened to you, the one thing that kept running through my mind, because I understand that you help a lot of people now, you were being prepared. And the fact that you now have your own company, frequency caps, and you bring this type of healing to a lot of people that need it. Sometimes the person that brings it had to go through it to know what they had to end up creating in order to fix it for someone else. And that's the thing that I took away from this entire conversation, that although it was extremely bad and you lost everything, there was actual purpose in everything that happened to you, because I'm more than sure that you have helped countless people on your journey of healing and self-discovery. So can you talk about that as we close?
Yeah, 100%. No, 100%. It was shown to me in ceremony. I quit so many times because I was getting contamination, and I was just, full of stories. So, a one quick last one was 4 years ago or whatever. I had shut down. I had partnered with some marijuana guys because they saw what was coming. I needed some capital. They were like, well, we'll partner with you. So I go into business with these guys. They basically ripped me off, and they stole all my genetics and whatever.
Mm,
I shut it down. I had a bell tent here. I was so traumatized. I had gotten some movie business back. I was starting to, get some whatever. Anyway, a friend of mine calls me from Europe, and he's coming into town, and he says, "Hey, I have my LA clients want me to do a ceremony in LA. Can I use your house in Topanga?" I said, "Yeah, cool." So he comes in. He tells me he's got 12 people coming. 22 show up. The
mm,
house is full. We got people everywhere. Um, so, but I'm gonna angel, which means I'm gonna just kind of supervise. But I got to drink a little bit of medicine, which I hadn't done ayahuasca in a couple of years. So anyway, I drink a little bit of the medicine. I done mushrooms, but I hadn't done ayahuasca. Anyway, in the ayahuasca journey, we talk about the mother. There's this mother figure that teaches you, that guides you. It's Mother Earth, Mother whatever. I don't know, Mother Nature. I have no idea. Above my pay grade. Anyway, she shows up and she's like, "Hey," really fast. I just launched off. I shouldn't have launched off. I drank very little, but the mother wanted to chat with me, so she pulls me in and she goes, "Hey, you've been avoiding us." This makes no sense to someone that hasn't had the ayahuasca experience, but and you can't explain it in language. So anyway, she says, "Yeah, we've been wanting to chat with you. You've been avoiding us." And I went, "Oh
mm,
shit, she's gonna, I've been through some gnarly ones." And she goes, "You know that mushroom thing?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "You're getting back in it." And I go, "No, no, I'm not. No, 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 no. I've got 3, 4 years of failure." She goes, "No, no, 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 no. You're doing it all wrong." She goes, "You know that 10 years of hell and alcohol and rehabs and blah, blah, blah. This is to your point. That's why I'm telling you the story. That was necessary for what you're going to become." And I went, "What am I going to become?" And she goes, "That was your training, because you're going to only work with mindful people with this medicine. You're going to do this for healing, like it's helped you, your life experience mixed with this medicine, et cetera, et cetera. And people will listen to you because of your struggle." And then she went on to say, "This is what you'll be helping humanity with." And then there was this montage of disease and war and hatred and suicide and whatever, all this darkness. She said, "This is what you'll be helping humanity with, and they need it now. But the mushrooms want you to do all the work. You have to learn." I had been farming out the science part. She goes, "No, no, no. You have to learn it. You have to learn every inch, millimeter of this whole process, in, out. You have to become an expert at it. The mushrooms want you. And we know you're scared, but if you do it this way, we will protect you." And I came out of that ceremony so confused. I was like, "But I have all this film coming up, blah, blah, blah." A week later, 2 weeks later, I can't remember, the pandemic hit.
mm.
Movie gone, TV show gone, bam, in an hour. I went, "Oh, I'm listening. You got my attention." So I kicked the door open, zipped open that tent, started from the bottom. Manure, dirt, pressure cookers, grain, jars. I had 22 pressure cookers going. I was just, dude, it was unbelievable. But I did it, started over, did it from the ground, failed, learn, read, failed, contam. And then, I don't know, 3 years ago, I sold an ounce to this shaman friend of mine. And he calls me a couple days later and he goes, "Dude, me and my friend took 6 grams of your mushrooms. We went really deep. We both saw you in our journeys independently." And I went, "You're kidding." He goes, "No. And we both felt your fear, and we both
Mm.
saw the contamination. Your energy, your anger, your fear is in the medicine, your frequency. That's what he said. And I went, what the fuck? So that's when I came up with frequency. I built a sound chamber underneath the ground, and we have this harmonic or this harmony of speaker systems, and we play Buddhist chanting and crystal bowls and Kundalini. I had, I was a musician already, but I knew about cymatics, the sound, and Kundalini is based in sound currents, chanting, and I already knew a lot of this stuff. So I just wired this whole thing for that, and now it's like a sound bath. We've had that for like 3 years, and we've never had that complaint again. We've had nothing but beautiful journeys and essence. So if there's any darkness in any of the medicine that you use from us, it's usually your shadow work. Because marijuana makes me paranoid. Like it didn't used to, but it's been grown by drug dealers. Right? It doesn't even look like marijuana. Marijuana, as a kid, you smoked the leaf, and you felt good. Now it's so condensed and purple and bud and extracted and THC, and it doesn't even look like it. You look at like a bud, it looks like an alien, and you smoke that and you freak out, right? It's too powerful. It's full of paranoia, man.
Wow.
Like tobacco is a healing plant. I mean, it's Native Americans prove everybody. It's healing. Tobacco is nicotine is healing in small amounts in the brain. Caffeine, very healing, right? We butchered it. Cigarettes, they're not, but if you roll natural cigarettes, a peace pipe, it's healing. We use hape in our ceremonies. Tobacco, right? Marijuana, they butchered it. And now they're trying to do it with mushrooms, right? So that's what I've seen in these journeys. Is I'm trying to protect the essence of the mushroom as it exists in nature, right? No synthesizing, no extracting, full biomass, everything, every single component of the mushroom is in all of our products with the highest vibration. I mean, our mushrooms, the stems are white. There's no, like the whites of your eyes, right? If your eyes are not white, there's something going on with your liver or your gallbladder, right? Ours are pure, right? They're healthy, they're happy, they're vibrant, and they're psychoactive, right? So it does matter with all of that. And again, I could talk about it forever, but it's very important that this is happening in this day and age. We are in the Aquarian age, and it is the age of us waking up. It is the age of us healing each other. It is feminine. It is collaborative. It is transparency. No bullshit. You cannot hide. Information's available to everyone. The internet. We work together collaboratively. We do not compete. Nature. There's two trains. There's the AI train and there's a psychedelic train of healing, natural. People are going into more cities and living under these concrete, systems of everything, or people are disconnecting, going back into nature, right? You can see it, even in our grocery stores, right? Right? Like you go to Chick-fil-A, there's 42 ingredients in their chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
You fucking go get a real chicken, right? That's what people are doing, right? At least where I live, right? Yeah. So we've been around a long time, man. Nature is medicine. We are the medicine. We are, right? Our thoughts can kill us, but our thoughts can save us.
Wow.
100%. This is how we heal ourselves. This is also how we kill ourselves.
Yeah.
It's true.
Wow. You're absolutely right. Well, this has been, I must say, I've been doing this for quite some time. This has been the most interesting conversation I have ever had on this podcast, but it's been very enlightening. So where can people find you? Let's say, for instance, because we actually have someone that's been listening since we started, and they said that they're going to definitely check out your website because they're interested in your product. So where can people find you and find your product?
Well, yeah, and remember, I hope your listeners are mindful because this is somewhat in the gray zone, as we call it, because of where it's at in every state. But we're a very small operation. But they can find us at frequencycaps.com. right? And on there is frequencycaps.com. That's our main website. And then we have an Instagram icon there, YouTube, Facebook or whatever, but most of our educational information is on Instagram. And like I said, I have a YouTube channel of education as well. So we're building out those channels even more and more. Because it's about education. People are afraid because, we don't know. We were taught it's going to make you jump out of a building and you're going to go crazy, when in fact it's the opposite. What we call medicine, the government calls drugs. What they call medicine are the real drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Semantics.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, before you go, you said you were a Gemini.
Yeah.
When's your birthday?
June 6th.
Okay, my wife's is the 3rd and mine's is the 19th.
There you go. You're on the
So,
cusp.
Yeah,
we're storytellers.
Yes.
Storytellers, brothers. There's
Yes.
no reason. There's no coincidence that you're sitting in a podcaster's chair.
Yeah.
As a Gemini.
You're absolutely right. Well, Mark,
Yes.
This has been absolutely amazing. You definitely have to come back because there's so much I didn't get to talk to you about because I'm really curious. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you got something from this amazing conversation. And as far as healing yourself the right way, because you said some things, talking about the shaman seeing that your frequency was off. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, how many people are unknowingly walking around on the wrong frequency right now and don't even know what they're trying to figure out what's going on, what's wrong. I don't know what's going on. And something like this can help them. So I'm really glad that you and I were able to sit down for a little bit and talk about it. And we're definitely going to have to do this again. But any parting words before we go?
Well, I was just going to say, you said something, about everybody's on a different frequency or whatever. But think about, like, if you put two acoustic guitars next to each other and you pluck the A string on one of them, the other A string will vibrate without you touching it, right? You're vibrating. You have 30 trillion cells in your body vibrating. I'm vibrating. What happens when I sit next to another person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? We become that frequency, right? So your thoughts are frequency. The people you're hanging out with are frequency. The foods you eat are frequency. The sounds you hear are frequency. So a quick fix to this is just look at the obvious. What are you watching? Turn off the news, all of it. I used to work in it, all of that. It is theater, okay? Disconnect. I always tell people, look at your Instagram feed. Your Instagram feed is an exact representation of the state of your mind, 100%. If you have a bunch of girls on there, if you have a bunch of parties on there, if you have a bunch of bullshit on there, your mind is full of exactly that. Your Netflix queue is a reflection of your mind. These are algorithms written by you for them to send you shit to watch, right? Clean it up. Mine is full of spiritual masters, cymatics, physics, Buddhism, psychedelics. There's a whole beautiful world out there, right? You start doing these things, exercise, get in nature. These are the things that are quick fixes to change your frequency, your vibration, right? You will get happier naturally because your body will follow your mind. Clean it up.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for joining us. This has been, you definitely have to come back. You definitely have to come back. And you know what? Actually, we'll talk about it. I'm going to see you an email because there was another young lady that I had one a couple of months ago, Dr. Samantha Hart, and she has an amazing journey as well. She went through some addictions and she came out on the other side and she's doing some amazing work. So I would love for the two of you and myself to get on a podcast and just talk about the healing journey. That would be great. So I'm going to
I'm in.
Email you in a couple of weeks. I'm going to, email her because I know both of you are extremely busy, but I would love to get the two of you on a podcast to talk about, some ways that we can help people, because as you said, there are so many things going on in the world today. And so many people are anxious and just out of sorts, politics, economy, you name it, so many things are out of whack. So if I can do anything to kind of help people, find their center, I would love to do it. So again, Mark, thank you so much for joining me on a conversation with, ladies and gentlemen. Please share this if you've watched it and it resonated with you. Please share the episode. Please go visit Mark on Frequency Caps. It's Mark Kohl. That's Kohl. Look him up on the web so you can see all of the amazing work that he is doing to help people. And that's the bottom line, that everything that he went through was for a reason. And that reason was to help you. You didn't even know it at the time.
No.
But if you're listening to this, there's a reason you're here today.
Yeah.
There's a reason you're here today, and there's a reason you're going to be listening to this podcast. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining myself and the amazing Mr. Mark Kohl, founder of Frequency Cats. Ladies and gentlemen, as I always in my podcast, love it like a hobby, but treat it like a business. Everyone have an absolutely amazing, amazing night.